breakfast show without food, right? And we're talking about food on the show today. Everybody needs food, really, and you can't survive without it for too long. We have joining us on the show this morning, Michael David is a team lead, Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation. Joins us live from our Abuja studio. Welcome to the Morning Brief, Mr. David.
Thank you for having me.
It's said that food is a fundamental human right. Some would say that's the ideal, but in reality, is that the situation here? Because it would look like a lot of people are being deprived of their human rights with the price of food item in the markets. Nigeria dealing with what has been called food insecurity right now. So is that the ideal situation or the reality in Nigeria, food being a human right?
So, have you had breakfast this morning?
I'm not sure I'm the right person to ask,
no, because
but no.
I would guess no, because you're up early to be in the studio, you know. Yes, the truth is that food is a basic human right under the Nigerian Constitution, 1999 as amended. There was an alteration of the Constitution in 2023 that includes food as a basic human right. That is, food and food security as a right in Nigeria. And we have that under the Right to Food Act 2023. Now, unfortunately, I will say that the Right to Food Act has not been implemented. And you ask yourself the question, are Nigerians hungry? Yes. The Right to Food Act explicitly states that government must develop strategies that guarantee accessibility of food, availability of food, and affordability of food. Now the question is, do we have all of this as currently is? Considering the number of Nigerians that are hungry, considering the number of malnourished children, looking at the statistics, we know what is happening with poverty and hunger across the country. So in the real sense of it, food is a basic human right in Nigeria, but in practical, it is not. And when you say basic human right, you're also saying that it is a right to life, because you cannot have life without food. So if you are looking at the fundamental human rights globally, you have life to life, you must have right to food. So at the moment, we are not upholding the right to life of Nigerian citizens if we are allowing them to go hungry. We are also not upholding the Constitution of Nigeria as amended that clearly states that food is right. It's a right of Nigerian citizens.
You know, they say the devil is in the detail, and sometimes we don't lack legislation. But what we found out in our case, for instance, the fact that there's so many laws, some we don't even know exist until, you know, when we head to court and see that these laws actually exist. So in your view, as somebody who is very interested and passionate about the sector, how best can this be implemented? Because in reality, for instance, now, food inflation is pretty high, cost of living is pretty high, you can go on and on. It's like a broken record. We'll say this and over again. We keep repeating it so that we create awareness on the minds of the policymakers that what you're doing is not working. So how best should they go about it?
I mean, the president was elected and he was sworn in to uphold the Constitution of Nigeria. It's same for the governors as well. They were sworn in to uphold the Constitution. And if you have a portion of the Constitution that guarantees the right of food to Nigerians and you are not implementing it, then you should be held accountable. And that's exactly what we are talking about. We have a lot of these policies, right? From Green Revolution, Operation Feed Yourselves, and all of those policies. But the implementation has always been an issue. But to make it work is why this was inserted into the Constitution, to make it a law that guarantees food for Nigerians, not just food, good food, as you can see. So what we are saying is that if we have this in the Constitution, the citizens themselves have to hold government accountable. And when I say government here, I'm not just referring to the federal government, because the state governors also own a responsibility to ensure that their citizens and everyone within their state have the right to food. I mean, where are the people? The people are all in the states, right? Where is the land? The land is in the state. Where are the farmers? They are in the state. So the question is, how much was budgeted for agriculture across the state? At the federal level, what is the budget of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture? For me, I think that the federal should even be concerned more with policies that ensure that you are protecting Nigerians from exploitation as currently is, because this is also contained in that section of the Constitution that says that no businesses, no individual should undermine the food security of Nigerians. Therefore, our budget should correspond with what is going on with the current food inflation. Is that the case? We have about 600 billion naira, the Federal Ministry of Food and of Agriculture and Food Security. How about the states? But this is a far cry when you look at the population of Nigeria, 230 million people. Are we able to feed ourselves? I mean, Nigeria is a party to the Malabo Declaration. And the Malabo Declaration states that all African states should budget at least 10% of their annual budgets on food and agriculture. Because when you look at all the issues we have, the national security issues, you will agree with me that food is also a national security issue. And that's why we must take it seriously. I mean, no Nigerian, and I repeat that no Nigerian should go to bed hungry. No Nigerian should be on the street holding plates and begging.
So, Mr. David,
we can fix it, because we have the arable land, we have the human resources, the farmers are there. All that we need is to invest and invest rightly.
So,
and
Mr.
not
David,
this kind of food sharing and some of these other things we do.
So while we await the legislation that will guarantee food as a right for every Nigerian, it would seem like there isn't a paucity of policies as far as agricultural development is concerned. Distribution of 1,000 tractors by Mr. President, a distribution of tractors by some state governments, the policy on agricultural extension services is also there. So with all of these, what would you say is missing as where the direction of the conversation should be headed, such that we can have an abundance and affordability of food?
It is the implementation of some of these policies of government. But let me say that the Right to Food Act is already a law in Nigeria. It was passed into law in 2023, and the former President Buhari signed it on the 3rd of March 2023. So it's already a law. It is not, it is not a bill in the National Assembly. So all that it is waiting is the full and holistic implementation. When the president came and declared the state of emergency on food security, we were expecting, some of us were expecting a strategy, that will ensure that food security is the main thing, the main focus of the government, because it takes care of many other things. But as it is, there are policies here and there, but the implementation is the problem. And that's why we are saying that this law holds government accountable, because it's now a law in the country. So if you were elected to hold the law and you are not able to, then questions should be asked about how you are performing, how you are able to ensure that Nigerians, have adequate food to eat. But going further into your question, I think that we need to support our smallholder farmers the more. I think that is the immediate action that needs to be taken. I mean, the smallholder farmers feed the nation. That is a fact, scientifically proven. the big commercial farmers will always produce for export. I mean, why is Gary so expensive right now? Why is the common fufu so expensive? Because the commercial farmers, you know, are producing, all the cassava is going to the production of ethanol and no more Gary, which should be used for consumption. You know, that is the food of the common man that is no longer at the reach of the common man. So what we are saying is, you must implement the right to food act as contained in the Constitution and develop the right strategies. I mean, there are so many policies, but I will always focus my attention to the state governors, because that is where the land is. We shouldn't so much be focused on the federal. I mean, what again is the budget of the states to food? And those few states are taking steps, a state like Lagos, with, you know, the subsidy they provide for some commodities for people with that huge population is a good step. The cold chains they have in Lagos, which also helps to reduce the food waste that we have in the country, is a good step. How about the other states?
I think it's important.
What are they really doing?
I think it's important to operationalize these things. Declaring a state of emergency is not enough, and it bothers me when you look at the GDP, for example. You see agriculture contributes the most, but now rebasing it, real estate is coming up. So what it means is people are using the land for real estate more now instead of for agriculture. And you wonder, we can't eat these buildings, right? We need to eat food that is planted on the same land. So, I mean, you'd expect government to come up with some sort of policy, maybe for real estate companies, say, yes, you can do real estate, but half of the land should be for agriculture, or targeted intervention, particularly for smallholder farmers. So if you want to purchase land or use land, it will come at a subsidized rate. These are some of the things we want to see in clear terms beyond some of the pronouncements. But it's important to continue this conversation. We have to thank you so much. Team Lead Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation, Mr. Michael David. Thank you so much for your time. Yes, I will eat my breakfast eventually, and I hope you get yours too.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being a voice for food.
Thank you. I mean, if we don't speak for food, who will? Well, food is one way or the other. We'll take a quick moment now. When we return, we have a phenomenal woman joining us. She's in the tech space doing some great stuff. Join us again.